Welcome to the Eat Y'all Podcast, where we discuss the struggles and successes of the farmers, food producers, and chefs who are working to get better ingredients into restaurants today and to ensure their availability in the future.
Eat Y'all is looking for partners to help us show some love to 500 hardworking chefs. With our Care Package program, you can encourage and inspire chefs who fit your target market. Learn more at eatyall.com/love. That's eatyall.com/love.
Welcome to the Eat Y'all Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Chapman, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mariana, and I'm really glad you could join us today for episode number
41.
41. That's a lot of episodes.
I think I'm over 10 deep now on co-hosting. So
yeah,
we've covered some ground here in the last couple of months.
You have not gotten a pink slip. It's been good.
Yeah. So what's on tap for today?
So we're going to go to Tifton, Georgia to visit with Samantha McLeod to talk about Georgia Pecans and how important it is to sample your product. She loves to say, seeing is believing. I think seeing, tasting, touching, all of those things are important when you get into products.
Samantha is a great friend of ours and just a tremendous leader of the Georgia Pecan Growers Association over in Georgia, and just a super, super smart chick. And so I'm really excited to hear what she has to say about sampling, especially. It's one of the things that is coming up more and more as we especially have had to struggle through the past year of COVID with trade shows and a lot of those things not being available to us in food marketing. It's like, how do you get the flavor into a chef's mouth and let them see the difference and taste the difference in the product? And so a lot of ingredients may have the same name, but not the same flavor or texture. And so that sampling piece is really, really important.
And I kind of feel like maybe I'm beating a dead horse. I feel like I say this all the time, but you know, a tomato is not the same as all other tomatoes, depending on where you get it. I think Subway is probably the example that comes to the top of my mind. But I used to have a Subway near the office, and I would go grab a sandwich, and those tomatoes that they would put on there, that's not the same thing my grandparents grew in their garden. And it's really light years apart, but categorically, they're technically both tomatoes.
And we've seen this through so many different ingredient categories that we've worked with over the years. It just matters so much, variety and growing conditions and just the care and the craftsmanship that farmers put into what they're doing is the very reason why sampling is so important and why we're going to talk about it today.
Yeah, if I said categorically I don't like fish because I tried a sardine one time, I'd be missing out on so many options out there: tilefish, redfish, catfish, snapper, grouper, tuna, salmon. And every single one of those could be great or overcooked or fresh or not, and kind of getting all fired up again. But if you can sample it, all of a sudden you can make big distinctions in ingredient groups, and it matters how it's been handled and treated and transported and all those things.
And I think that experience of sampling it and knowing the story and why it tastes the way it tastes and is the way it is part of the story that customers are really looking for. What's the nutrition, what's the safety, what's the story behind the ingredients they're eating, and for restaurants to have ingredients that they can trust and that are superior in flavor, texture, and nutrition are just help them do better jobs at what they're doing, and everybody wins. So I guess we'll cover this topic more in depth with Samantha, who's really just winning at doing this well. And let's get right to it. Let's sample some of your conversation with Samantha McLeod of the Georgia Pecan Growers Association.
All right, we'll do it right here. Welcome to this edition of the Eat Y'all Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Chapman, and it is my privilege to be visiting with Samantha McLeod, and she is live in Tifton, Georgia. We're doing the Zoom cast. We're trying to get good at it, Samantha. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Andy. I feel like we ought to be pros by now, but it's good to be here.
It's been a year of interesting new things we've all learned, and I didn't actually tell people who you're with and why that's important yet. So why don't you share who you're with down there in Tifton, Georgia?
Well, here in Tifton, Georgia, I am with and representing the Georgia Pecan Growers, and happy to do so. There's some great folks down here. So that's who I'm with, and that's who we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. So what is your job there at the Georgia Pecan Growers? Is it the Georgia Pecan Growers Association, by the way? Is it like, I feel like it's longer, but we're just shortening it to.
Yes, it's a bit longer, you know. We also like to use a lot of acronyms on this side of the fence. So we say GPGA, the Georgia Pecan Growers Association. And here at the association, I am the executive director. And what that means in, grand scheme of things is I am here to promote, market, and educate the world about the health benefits and wonderful, flavorful Georgia pecans here from the state of Georgia.
And I love that you started with health benefits, because I know there's a ton of those, and we'll get into that a little bit more. How did you end up in Tifton, Georgia? Because I know you ain't from around here. No offense.
No, sir. No, sir. I am actually originally from Barnesville, Minnesota, way up north, about 4 hours from the Canadian border. However, I love agriculture, and agriculture is everywhere. And so I actually moved down to South Georgia back in 2015 when I met my husband through working for a ag equipment manufacturer. So I used to represent a lot of other commodities in a larger scale of things, more of the row crop commodities. But I have since 2017 been representing the Georgia Pecan Growers, and wouldn't change a thing about it.
So you were so far north. Could you see Canada from your house? I feel like you were like Sarah Palin up there.
Yeah, it was about a stone's throw away.
How many hours is it to get back to Minnesota from where you are in South Georgia?
24. And that's 24 hard hours.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a full 12-hour day driving.
Not breaking the speed limit at all.
Right. Staying within the bounds, always. Staying within the bounds. So
then 4 more hours. So where you are in Tifton is almost 28 hours from Canada, that direction. That's pretty amazing. So you came a far piece to come down to Tifton to work with him. So what's a major misconception or whatever about Georgia pecans? What do people think about them? That I know you mentioned health benefits is one of the things you share, but when people say, oh, what do they think about it that's wrong typically?
Typically, the pecan, and this is true about the pecan, is that it does have a higher calorie count. So a pecan does have a higher calorie count. However, and when I talk about calorie count, I mean a high fat content, high oil content, which gives it that wonderful buttery flavor. However, most people are unaware that that high oil fat content is actually the monosaturated fats, which are essentially the good fats that help maintain and could possibly help lower your cholesterol versus some of the other saturated fats out there. So it's not like eating a bag of chips. It's eating some healthy, good fats for you that are going to overall help you maintain weight, secure a good source of fiber for you for the day, and also, taste awesome as you do it.
I think people have, in the last 3 or 4 years, the conception of what the word fat means as a whole, as all of America, I'm 43. I grew up hearing this low-fat marketing pitch from oh, we're going to take the fat out of the milk. We're going to take the fat out of the sour cream. It was like fat bad. And of course, growing up, you're like, man, I don't want to be fat. Right. But then working in the culinary industry, it's like, I want to see the marbling on that ribeye, and that is flavor and that is good. And that means it's a premium product. And it sounds like the way you just described that, it's almost like, yeah, that's actually transfers to the flavor and premium nature of what you're growing, because it's not a dry, bitter nut.
Exactly. And speaking as a female who a moment on the lips, forever on the hips is something that I think about on the daily. I still consume 1 ounce of pecans every day in my diet. They are packed with antioxidants, so I already know that I have a low immune system with 2 children under the age of 2, always bringing in those nasty germs. So I try to keep my antioxidant levels up as much as possible, but it also helps curb your appetite. So it is honestly my 10 a.m. snack every day is 1 ounce, or we call a handful of healthy pecans, to help me get through the morning, the morning lull, and, get me to lunch, help stretch that limit. It is just something that I absolutely believe in. And really, I will admit that I was not aware of all the health benefits, the flavorfulness, and even that where or how pecans were grown when I first started this job in 2017. It has been so eye-opening to myself, along with all my family members and friends up in the northern states like Minnesota, who also weren't really aware of pecans in general as being such a popular nut grown in the United States. One of the other misconceptions is I don't know that people really, when they're buying a pecan and consuming a pecan, think about how it was grown. And to think that it's grown in a large orchard off a tree, I think it's just amazing. And I think it's a really neat thing and very organic to think about when it's, coming from a tree that has been established for, 20, 30 years. It's, and just continues to keep producing. I think it's just something extremely sustainable and just really, really, really natural.
So you're into pecans is what you're telling me.
I mean, just a little bit. If you couldn't tell, I'm a fan. Like maybe the number one fan of Georgia Pecan.
Yeah, that's good. I pictured you in your office there, like weighing out not 1.16 ounces, but like break off a piece. Now I'm at 1 ounces, but you're just doing a handful, which is about an ounce.
That's right. A handful, say 15 to 20 pecan halves is typically going to weigh out to an ounce. So it's just a ballpark spitball for you.
Do you have a favorite variety? Because I know different varieties of pecans have different characteristics. Are you doing Elliott halves? Are you doing money makers? Or I'm just kidding. Everybody hates the money makers, don't they?
I know, and I don't know why. Not fair. But every pecan has their place, I would say, whether it's to have the end goal of becoming an oil for pecan oil or an end goal for becoming a meal, or for an end goal of it's going to be a chopped up piece that just enhances the flavor of the bread you're making, the banana bread you're making or something like that. But I would say overall my favorite variety to consume is probably going to be the Elliott, just because it does have such a buttery natural flavor. And when I consume them for my afternoon snack or my morning snack, I actually consume them raw. So raw just means that they're not roasted and they're not salted and they're not candied. Just the raw, straight out of the nut half is what I like to consume. And I also try to consume that more frequently than not, because the raw half in particular has been deemed heart healthy by the American Heart Association. So trying to just do what's right for the old ticker, I try to stick to just a raw half instead of going with roasted and salted, but totally up to the consumer's preference. But I prefer the Elliott half because of its high oil content, giving it that ultra pecan nuttiness flavor.
And they're also tolerable dipped in dark chocolate or salted, or, there are other ways. I do all that until we run out, and then I just go back to eating halves, which is fun. But,
I'll take it anyway. Yeah, absolutely.
Love all the different treats that pecans come in, but they're also phenomenal. Just straight up. Eat Y'all, we obviously work with chefs. We've worked with you guys. Talk about chef outreach and why that's important to, as part of your strategy, part of one of the weapons or things you guys think of in your arsenal of outreach to different buying groups. How does chef outreach fit in, and why is that important to you guys?
It is so extremely important to us and this industry and the product that we produce here, because of the fact that I feel like today the chef industry and the restaurant industry is really the trend setters when it comes to what people decide to buy to cook at home. Whether it is like a foodie trend that everybody wants to try something new, right? But they never want to try it new as in, I'm going to make it at home myself first. You don't always trust yourself to, make your great grandma's recipe because it's never going to be as good. So I feel like we absolutely need the chef industry and network to be the ones to introduce the product and its plethora of uses, whether that's, as y'all have done for us in creating that really great chicken and waffle dish where you breaded the chicken just in pecan meal, and just the different flavor that was giving the consumer on their plate and just a different palate. I think that everyone who goes out to a restaurant is looking for an experience and looking for something different. And I feel that our chefs are our gateway. They're everything when it comes to new food introductions and gaining popularity in a dish or in a particular byproduct or ingredient, that is. That's why we work with you and love working with y'all and know that the chefs are so critical to our industry.
I love what you said there about trendsetters and trailblazers, because it's almost like, and a lot of people that may listen to this are in marketing or farms or chefs, but that we've all heard the word influencer, which I don't even know was in the dictionary in 2010. Like, I don't know, maybe it was, as far as like someone who's a theological or whatever influencer in your life. But as a, what you write on your 1040 tax thing, like, this is how I made my living this year. Influencer is actually a thing. And the best influencers, I think, are people who, I mean, obviously you can hand somebody with 6 million followers your product and say, oh, like us, talk about us, say nice things. It's a totally different world when you're handing it to someone who just takes it and turns your product into something that's even better than what you handed them, and they can do it 10 different ways on 10 different days. Right.
Just the value added that they can provide this raw ingredient, I think is truly outstanding.
Well, that's what we love the chef community, because they're so creative and thoughtful about where they're getting ingredients. And I mean, so many times they've asked me about different products. Where does this come from, and who's growing it, and how is it harvested, and how is it stored? And because consumers are asking them those questions.
And that means the world to the producer. So when you're talking about all the folks that I represent, I mean, it means the world to them when somebody like a chef, first of all, uses their product as an ingredient or the main feature of an item on their menus, but then also recognizes where it came from. That hones in all the way back to the farm and just keeps building that relationship even further. And so that means a lot to us on this end too, consumer and producer alike. Very valuable to us. Absolutely.
All right, I want to tie into that. So what sorts of things do you wish that every chef knew about Georgia pecans and the growers that you're representing? Because I think obviously a lot of them are listening to this. What should they know?
For starters, the state of Georgia in particular, our growers have always paved the path for pecan production in the United States. They are the number one producer in the United States, as in Georgia leads the nation in pecan production by yield, that is. So not only do we produce them the best, we also produce the most. So if you're looking to source high quality product, we have the most available out of any state in the nation. Also, we are very thoughtful when raising and growing the product. Our growers don't enjoy having to fertilizer spray chemical, but they do as needed just to protect the product. But I would say that the guys don't overdo it because this is their livelihood. So they're going to produce the best product that they can to supply to the chef industry or to whoever is consuming it. They care about the consumer, number one. And then also I would say we produce a product like no other. The way that we can produce, I don't know if it's the rich soils here of South Georgia and Central Georgia that can produce this outstanding product, but among the other 15 pecan growing states, there is just no match for the flavor and color that we can produce in the nut. We produce, some of our varieties cannot be produced in the other parts of the nation. Yeah. So we grow some improved varieties here. Yeah. So that other areas just don't grow and just can't seem to get the best bang for their buck out of that variety as we can here.
The moisture, that the climate as far as the water that's readily available, whether it's irrigation or rain, makes a huge difference too. And you think about, I was on a beef farm and they were talking about how important, you got to have they were feeding them hay in the winter and all these different things, but they were like, they have to have X amount of water every day to make their daily gains happen. and that's on the beef side, thing. But this is another, you got to have a certain amount of water or it's gonna impact the nut.
You're absolutely correct. Our plethora of water is critical for pecan production. I mean, like anything, it needs water to grow. However, to fill out and form that beautiful, large, golden nut that we can here in Georgia, it requires exponential amounts of water. So we are very fortunate for the availability that we do have to produce such a great product. One other thing that's really kind of cool, last year, in May of 2019, Georgia's Commissioner of Agriculture deemed a new sizing category called the Georgia Grand for our large nuts that we can provide here, particularly only in the state of Georgia. Yeah, it's very exciting, very wonderful to give, the growers the credit where credit is due for growing a larger product that doesn't have a sizing category. And I think it's just pretty awesome that they get that recognition that they finally deserve. So it's called the Georgia Grand. It is the largest nut within, if you're just ordering based on size of nut versus variety, as most purchases will be based on size and not by variety, just depending on the size of the order, et cetera. However that works. I've been on a lot of calls for export things lately, and so I've been having to talk a lot about size versus variety lately. So forgive me if I get a little too deep in the details there.
No, and I think for listeners that if you think about the Georgia Grand, think of the biggest pecan you've seen versus your thumb, and then take your finger and go down a couple of notches, because it's the size of BB King's thumbnail, I think is what somebody said. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What? That's awesome. I had not thought of that one. I had not heard that yet. Thank you. That actually gives a great depiction.
You should listen to the podcast often, Samantha. We may have been in a previous episode. I'm not saying no. I'm just giving you a hard time. But you'll listen to you will commit to listen to this episode, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I know I have a lot to pick up on, but I don't travel as much anymore since COVID.
I know so that is really that was one of the things I was like, man. I missed some of my daily podcasts that I listened to every morning when the gym and things were closed, because I was like, well, I missed that drive time. So, but people are starting to drive again. It's happening. All right. So you guys have done a lot of different marketing programs and various things. And I can't even imagine over the last 5 years how many different things you guys have tried, and trade shows and all sorts of things in so many different places probably. But one of the things working with chefs that we've seen is just magic is sampling and actually having someone taste your product in the moment where you're like, okay, boom. How important is sampling to what you guys do? Does everybody know what a nut is supposed to taste like?
Personally, I do not think so, especially because what most consumers most of everybody who's ever bought a pecan at the supermarket is buying a pecan that has probably been sitting in the bag for probably a little too long. And when they taste it, it tastes a little rancid, a little off, not as, I don't even know how to describe it, but anybody who's, what do I want to say, like a notion of pecans prior to trying a fresh Georgia pecan has no idea what the flavor is actually like if handled and properly stored correctly and cooked correctly. So I'd say no. And the sampling portion of it is critical to the understanding, and the seeing is believing, sampling is believing, essentially with the Georgia pecans, especially direct from a grower here in our state. And the other reason that I know exactly that I'm eating 1 ounce a day is because we do provide sample packs as part of our marketing and promotional efforts here at the association. We get, boxes of samples, and they're all 1 ounce samples.
She's got tricks up her sleeve.
I have the opportunity to have those on hand for not only my snack time, but to share with others. And so We try to supply places like the Georgia Welcome Centers, where we, with having I-75 and I-95 go through our state, are great hubs to introduce Georgia pecans to people who have maybe never tried a Georgia pecan before. But, one of the other things is like I said, seeing is believing. So sampling is critical for us. And we love to share our product with people and get that reaction. We live to see their reaction and see the awe that is once they try a Georgia pecan.
That's so true. I remember we had some samples that you guys gave us and went to chef camp. And one of the chefs had been making bread pudding at his restaurant. I mean, he's probably 32, 33 years old. He was making several things that he used pecans, but he'd bought from, his mainline, broadline food distributor. And I said, try a handful of these. And he's like, yeah, I don't really like pecans that much. He's like, but I cook with them. I'm like, okay, try these. And chefs will try anything. That's one of the things about them. You always have to be open to trying new things, because otherwise you just get, you can work at Subway, but eventually you got to try new things. So he did, and was like, whoa, where'd you get these? I was like, that's my point, my friend. And so he instantly was like, okay. And he took his pecans back, the samples that we gave him, opened up his cabinet at his restaurant and had a taste off with the staff. And it was like, nope, what you guys provided us was way better. I think a lot of it is storage and freshness, but then you get down to variety, and there's so many factors in there. But the real factor at the end of the day is your taste buds don't lie, right?
That's right. You're absolutely right. That's a telltale story. I will never forget, I went on a trade mission to a large food, the Gulf Food Show, actually in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates back in 2018. And it was really my first international trade mission. And I was kind of new to it. So I always went right to the samples and said, and you always don't know if you're going to have a language barrier, but there's no words that need to be said when I hand out a handful of pecans and ask them to, they try it. And I will never forget when it was a group of Indians came and looked at, the big banner behind us that had a big pecan half on it. They looked at me and said, walnut? And I said, no, pecan. And they said, type of walnut? Just assuming, and kept trying to push me to tell them that it was just a different variety of walnut. And I said, no, totally separate, pecan. And then I opened up a sample pack and let them try one. And you watch them kind of chew for a minute and they furrow their brow. And then they just have this aha, like light bulb moment where their eyes just brighten up. Then they start passing it out and giving more samples to their friends. And then it just goes from there. And it was just the most amazing experience to me. And just a true testament to, the seeing is believing and tasting is.
You should have seen them when they tried fried chicken and waffles with the chicken rolled in pecan meal or pecan flour, with my air quotes. I mean, it's a combination meal, flour, whatever. Holy smokes. You would have thought that, it was, I don't know. It was amazing. The reaction. I love the stories of other cultures, especially, are so funny, because we eat other people's culturally different food. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And sometimes you get into something and you're like, well, this is awesome. And sometimes you're like, I don't know that I want this again, but thank you for sharing it. So when you get that awesome reaction when you're sampling, it really, I don't know, for me, it makes me feel like I've actually accomplished a goal and done something. And so we worked together on a project, and I know it's been, kind of backing up a little bit. Last year was a really hard year for a lot of people, and I haven't looked at an economic report, but I don't know that there's an industry or group of folks more adversely impacted by the coronavirus in the economy than restaurants. And I feel like from our numbers and the people we've talked to, it's not the chain big restaurants that has been affected as much as the mom and pops. And it's almost on top of that, like the better and nicer your restaurant is, the harder it's been. And I know several dozen that have closed indefinitely or permanently personally. And there's probably more that if I went through and looked. So we know it's been a really hard year for chefs, and their supply chains have had issues. They've had the additional like safety measures of masks and gloves on gloves and limited staff, and they can't get out and go travel and do things that a lot of them have done. And we worked together on a little kind of mashup of, okay, let's do some things that we think can both accomplish some goals internally for y'all and together encouraging chefs. And I want you to talk about that program and why you guys thought that was a good idea and kind of where you landed with that. Sure,
absolutely. Yes, there is no denying that the restaurant industry just took such a hit from this COVID pandemic, and everybody's hearts just went out to them. And at the same time, our hearts went out to them, and we felt helpless in being able to help them and being able to give them, a little spark of hope, a little light at the end of the tunnel. And so when we're talking about, sampling products and having a win every now and then, there's nothing more personal than receiving something in the mail that you're not expecting. Receiving a little care package. Like I said, I'm from Minnesota, so all my family is far away. So when my 93-year-old grandma sends me a card for my birthday, or my mom actually sends me a care package and it's just a set of masks because she wants me to be safe. There's nothing more heartfelt and touching and, warming than that. And when you're talking about the end of a year like last year, working with y'all and all the fun that we get to have in-person events and stuff, not being able to do that was really difficult on our end too. So putting together that care package for some of the chef community was an amazing gift that we got to provide and feel good about. And hopefully on their end, they got to feel good about as well, and also have something fun to try. When we're talking about trying new recipes or actually sampling the product or incorporating it as a substitute, when you're talking about banana nut bread, stuff like that you can throw some pecans in there and give it a new improved flavor and nuttiness, adding in some fun products for them and showing them that we appreciate them and we appreciate them sticking it out through these tough times was something fun for us to do with y'all. And we really appreciated your help in putting that together because we couldn't have done it ourselves. But sharing the pecan halves, pecan pieces, the pecan meal / flour that we talked about, and pecan oil, all the different variations that you can use our product in, and allowing them to just, have some fun with it and just no questions asked. Here you go and enjoy a little gift pack. It was really fun and special to do.
And you left off the keychain.
I know, best part.
Explain what the keychain, because I've been amazed how in demand all of a sudden that thing got.
Oh my gosh, me too. Well, one of the varieties that we grow here in Georgia, which has been deemed in the size category of the Georgia Grand, is the desirable pecan. And, its name is what it is. It's highly sought after. So it is a desirable. Well, it's something that we're really proud of here in Georgia. And so as an association who is trying to promote our high-end, top quality products, we created a keychain that is a desirable pecan half. It is the actual size, and it is from an actual pecan half that we sent to a pewter molding company that we bubble wrapped it and made sure that it didn't bust on the way there. And they created this really special little giveaway that we can have as a little leave behind. So, every once in a while you might think of us. So we sent off we included one of those little leave behinds in the gift pack as well. And apparently it was a big hit. We love it, but I myself and us at the association can kind of geek out over stuff like that. But to know that that everybody else is geeking out about it too is just so rewarding. That was awesome. Just hands down the coolest thing. I didn't expect it at all.
The text messages that I got and then saw Instagram posts, tweets, different things that were they loved the nuts, but the keychain thing was something they'd never even knew existed.
I know. That made me so excited and so proud of our product and just so proud of the relationship that we can build with them and so glad that they enjoyed it. It was awesome. Y'all are awesome.
I'm glad y'all had as much fun doing that as we did, because it's like being kind of getting to play Santa Claus sometimes. I've been called Jolly. I don't really have the hair for Santa Claus, but I have been called Jolly before. I've become less like Santa in the last few years in some ways, so that's good. We're going to get into the lightning round in just a minute. I don't know if you studied for this. Are you familiar with how the lightning round goes?
I've listened to a lightning round on a prior podcast, but I'm kind of nervous for mine. I don't know.
Okay. We'll try to make it where it's not too painful. Was there feedback outside of what we experienced that you guys got from this program?
Yes. In particular, some of my growers were elated to know, because I work for a board of directors, which consists of 12 of our state's growers who are voted in by the other growers in the state. And so they're all my bosses. I get to work for some pecan farmers who are all awesome. And I let them know what projects we're working on. So when I notified them of this gift box program, I told them, we're doing a gift box promotion. I hope it goes well. And I'm obviously using all your guys' stuff. So if you could send me some product to send in these boxes, it would be amazing. So after a while, they would call me at random, because farmers never stop working, and they'd say, hey, how did that program go? I hadn't gotten to talk to you. I know the holidays come around and you're busy and such, but how did it go? I would just then send them the screenshots that you sent me and that we reshared on our social media that some of the chefs posted and stuff. They just couldn't believe it. It helped them because they've also had a very difficult couple of years as pecan growers, specifically our Georgia side of things, from hurricanes and trade wars and just things like that. It's just been a little difficult. So it really lifted their spirits.
That's really cool feedback to hear that. And I think farmers and chefs have so much in common in the way they work, just insane hours, and love what they do, or they probably wouldn't do it. Most of my chef friends have a few more tattoos than the farmers, though. So I think we're going to maybe do a program with the farmers to try to up the tattoo game. We can get some inspiration. Actually having I'm thinking about getting a Georgia Grand on either my bicep or my neck. I can't decide yet, but we're still working that out. Mariana's on board. She says, you're nuts. So, I'm kidding. That actually, I was thinking about one of the chefs we did a podcast with. Robbie's got a great set of vegetables tattooed on his arm, and it kind of, he is really important. His ingredients that he uses to cook with are so important to him. And so I think that's part of the ethos of why he did that and made art part of that permanently. And a lot of folks don't do that the same way, but there you go. So we even got to talk about tattoos, Samantha. Before we get into the lightning round, a couple other questions. Do you know of one thing that we can all do to help your Georgia pecan growers be sustainable for generations to come? Is there like one takeaway that you're like, if everybody did this, man, we could keep rolling?
I'd say if you buy Georgia grown pecans, if you're going to make a pecan pie, make sure that the back says Georgia grown. Back of the bag says Georgia grown when you buy it. And if you can't find it on the shelf, you can always find it online. GeorgiaPecan.org is our association's website, and we have a whole list of Georgia pecan growers that sell directly through their own retail websites that you can buy raw halves, pieces, meal, oil, the works. You can buy them candied so you don't have to do it yourself, or you can buy raw and make them candied yourself. But should you ever be on the lookout for some Georgia pecans, if you're ever thinking about making anything with pecans, please think of Georgia Pecans.
And is that website, you spell out the word Georgia, or is it abbreviated GA Pecan?
Sorry. Yes. You spell out the whole word. And it's pecan singular. Actually, there are two websites that do represent Georgia pecans. So there's one that's Georgia Pecan and Georgia Pecans. So take your pick. You can't be wrong.
And it is really cool how many independent growers over there have their own e-commerce business, and we've met so many that are like multi-generational, just awesome folks doing, hey, my grandparents had this catalog, and now that catalog still goes out, but it's also online with a great interface and email marketing and all those things. But the roots of it started with a mail order business like the Sears catalog. Did you grow up with the Sears catalog, or was it?
Yeah, you don't want to get hit with it.
Yeah. We're going to talk. We'll have an intervention with your parents later on that. But I remember getting the Sears catalog and flipping through and like finding there's like 2 pages of like gun stuff. And it was like, ooh, this is the rifle I want, or the scope I want, or whatever. Like, I don't know, maybe you just write a check, put the little thing in the envelope, and then mail it back. I don't know. That was the good old days back in.
We all trusted that. Yes.
You just throw it in the mail. Probably can mail cash back then, and without, I don't know. Who knows? All right. So do you feel like emotionally prepared for the lightning round?
No.
Okay. That's perfect. That's exactly how we want it.
I think we can all agree that the past year hasn't been the easiest. Hardworking chefs are rethinking menus and product offerings while understaffed and overworked. Join Eat Y'all as we show some love to hundreds of hardworking chefs by giving them the gratitude they deserve and the resources they need to stay inspired. Learn more about how our care package program can work for you at eatyall.com/love. That's eatyall.com/love.
All right. So, biscuits or cornbread?
Biscuits.
Biscuits. And that's from a girl from Minnesota. All right.
Yeah, true.
Muffin or cupcake?
Muffin.
Favorite pie?
Pecan.
Do you have a recipe memorized for pecan pie?
Yeah, it's pecan, it just depends. I aim to please, so I can say it any way you want. It is basically corn syrup, butter, and brown sugar, and a whole bunch of Georgia pecans.
I think that's the right answer. Ribs, brisket, pulled pork, or chicken? If you're going barbecue, where do you land?
Brisket.
Did you ever had brisket when you lived in Minnesota?
Yes. My grandfather always cooked brisket all day in the summertime on the grill, on his smoker thing, grill smoker. He didn't have a big smoker or anything, but he tried. Me and my family were beef producers, and me and my husband are currently beef producers. So brisket all the way. I
love some brisket. All right. Favorite cut of steak, beef producer?
Ooh, probably going to go with the ribeye.
All right. Ribeye's acceptable. I thought you'd probably like say the Denver or the
right
Spinalis or something. All right. So you can go to one concert, any band in history. Who do you hear?
I would probably hear Queen.
Queen. There you go.
Yeah.
You know, we asked Chef Dwayne this same question. You know what he said?
What did he say?
Queen.
No. Nuh-uh.
Kidding.
Oh.
I'm not even kidding. No, I mean, it was Queen. That was so funny. 2 in a row. That's, I mean, of all the bands in the world, 2 people saying it back to back.
Well, he is our like our pecan man. So.
All right. So if you're having a dinner party and you get to invite any 3 people, living or dead, who do you invite? They're coming over.
How many people? 3?
3.
Probably that grandfather of mine that cooked that brisket, because he has since passed. And my son is now named after him. Arlen is his name. So I would invite Arlen Stangland. And then I would invite, he wouldn't probably want to invite Queen, so I'd have to invite somebody else.
Freddie Mercury probably wouldn't hang out with Grandpa.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't invite Freddie. He wouldn't be too excited about that one. This is hard. I don't know. You said dead or alive?
Dead or alive.
Dead or
I mean,
alive.
you go back to like, Christopher Columbus if you want to. I mean, I don't know.
Wow. I would invite maybe George Washington. See what he had to say. And
it could be food related. It could be sports related. It could be agriculture related. It could be family.
You know who I'd invite? Paula Deen.
Oh, there you go.
Can the invited guest also help cook?
I think we can make that happen.
Double dip there. Dual purpose it.
So we've got Grandpa, Freddie Mercury, and Paula Deen. Oh, wait. We weren't doing Freddie.
No, George Washington.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Grandpa, George, and Paula. That's a good dinner party. I think that would be interesting. All right. So if your husband, Robert, got a call tonight and I had to call him and say, hey, look, Samantha's been arrested. What does he think you've done? What does he automatically go, oh my gosh, she did it?
She has been arrested for probably like throwing a burrito back at somebody at Taco Bell or something, just because, like, had a hard day. Okay, my day started today with taking a 1-year-old to the eye doctor. Try that out. That was an adventure, and it's just kind of having a bad day. That'd probably be something I could see myself doing.
I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, like, she was in customs trying to smuggle pecans into a country for a trade show and forgot she had some in her purse, and they're like, oh, sorry. All right, so what is your favorite liquid pairing with that ribeye that you're going to have?
Ooh, I'm probably going to have some Chianti.
Chianti.
I'm a big fan.
That's very good. That's very civilized. All right, so if we're celebrating 1 year from today, we're opening a bottle of Dom Perignon, or we're opening up your Chianti, and it's like 1 year from today, we're down in Tifton, and we're like, okay, Samantha, 2022 is here. What are we celebrating a year from now?
I'd say that we are celebrating that there is not a single Georgia pecan left in the marketplace to grab.
Sold out.
Fresh out, sold out. The whole 2021
prior crop years,
is
everything's
gone.
out of.
Yep. That's it. That would just be.
Everybody can hang the sign in the window. See you next fall.
That's right. Closed for business.
That would be quite an accomplishment. Let's cheers to that.
Okay.
We are not drinking, but if we were, we could cheers to that for sure. That's a fantastic way to wrap it up, and I love that. Well, Samantha McLeod, it has been a treat to have you on the podcast. It's been a real treat working with you guys and getting to know so many of your different growers in different places, and thank you for all you're doing on behalf of chefs who are looking for better ingredients, and on behalf of the farmers that you represent. I think you guys are doing a tremendous job. So keep up the good work, and thanks for being with us on the podcast.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Eat Y'all Podcast, hosted by Eat Y'all founder and chief relationship officer, Andy Chapman. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd join us in our mission to save family farms by subscribing and leaving a review. Even better, share this episode and follow us on your favorite social media account at Let's Eat Y'all.